Hey YouTube, what's up? My name's Lee, and today I'm reviewing Kinds of Kindness, which is a new Yorgos Lanthimos film, and it stars Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons. And I will be right back to tell you guys all about what I thought about this one, right after I play this clip.
That woman over there keeps staring at me.
Do you know her?
No.
Excuse me. Can I have a moment of your time?
Sure.
My name is Rebecca King. I am 29 years old. I majored in literature and now work in the human resources department of a multinational company. But that's not important. My sister Ruth, she's a veterinarian. Her clinic is on Kenneth Avenue, number 18. My sister and I are twins. I think my sister is the one that you're looking for. There's no need to waste any more of your time. I swear to you. It's her.
Miss King? Hi. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mark Ball. This is my wife, Stephanie Ball. We're here visiting her parents. Her mother's not very well, you see. And we are looking for something, actually a nice, spacious, affordable apartment. I can't quite understand what it is you want
Listen.
from us.
Emily, here's Ruth's card. On the back is my address and phone number. If you met her, you'd know exactly what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Okay, so that was a clip from Kinds of Kindness, which, as I said earlier, is the new film from Yorgos Lanthimos, and it stars as the main cast is Emma Stone, Jesse Plemons, Willem Dafoe, Margaret Qualley, Hong Chow, and oh man, I always forget how to say his name. Mamoudou Athie, I believe is how you say his name. That's the main cast of characters, and it's also written by Efthimis Philippou, and he wrote The Lobster and The Killing of a Sacred Deer and Dogtooth. I haven't seen Dogtooth yet, but I have seen the other two. I really like The Lobster a lot. I didn't really like Killing of a Sacred Deer, but I will say if you vibed with The Lobster the way that I did, this is very much more like a lot closer to that movie rather than like Poor Things or The Favorite. I like all types of Yorgos Lanthimos stuff. He doesn't always have the same exact vibe with all of his movies, which I really like, but this is very much closer to the tone of The Lobster. And speaking of which, that means that this movie is super weird, which is awesome. I have a great time with super weird stuff. This is one of the most like original movies you're going to watch this year. Now, there is one thing about this movie that I did not expect, and I guess I should have pieced this together based on the trailers, but I just assumed that there would be a different explanation for it or something like that. But this is actually an anthology movie. There's 3 different stories in this movie. The first 2 really focus mostly on Jesse Plemons' characters, like he plays 2 different ones. And the third one focuses mostly on like Emma Stone. And yeah, I gotta say, because of that, this is very much Jesse Plemons' movie. He like owns this movie. The first, like, the reason I even liked the first story so much was because of his performance. And each story is like a different kind of like thing, you know. They're all like unique and different from one another, and they're all about different stuff, and they're all like insane. So, you know, a lot of fun. But the first one is mostly him and Willem Dafoe. Or it's mostly Jesse Plemons and Willem Dafoe, and Margaret Qualley shows up here and there, and Emma Stone's actually not really in that one that much. You know, that one's very much about like control, you know, which I really liked. This is an odd movie to talk about and review, because it's so like insane, which, you know, a lot of Yorgos Lanthimos stuff is. Speaking of that, I think all the performances in this are great, and it's fun to get to see like actors within the same movie get to play different roles. That doesn't really happen too much in a lot of movies now. Where like a different actor plays the exact same character in a different in like the same movie, you know. So I really liked that a lot. And speaking of which, the cast in this is stacked just from those 4 names I mentioned alone. But also it's got like Joe Alwyn shows up as well. There's like a few other people that show up in and out of this. There's like a really fun like supporting cast in this movie, and all of them have like fun voices. Particularly when you get to the second story, like the police chief or captain or whatever has a great voice, and also like the therapist guy who talks to Jesse Plemons, incredible voice and performance from that guy as well. So that's something I always like about Yorgos Lanthimos movies, is like sometimes people will just show up, you've never seen them before, or maybe you have, but like they're just doing something like so different that you've seen in anything else before. It just is like awesome. You're like, I've never seen anything like this before in any movie, and this is cool. Speaking of that, I will say this movie is a little bit light on Emma Stone until you really get to the third one. Now she's in the second story more than in the first story, but I was surprised to see that this one, like, she's in it for sure, but she's not in it as much as you think she's going to be in it. Like I said, from those trailers stuff, I thought she was like the main character of this movie. But there's not really a main character of this movie. There's a main character of each story, right? And I would say Jesse Plemons is the main character for 2 of them, and Emma Stone is a character for 3 of them. I mean, for 1 of them. And that's fine, actually. I was actually really happy to get to see Jesse Plemons do what he does in this movie. I would not be surprised if he gets nominated for Best Actor for this movie. He is fantastic. He definitely deserves it. You know, he showed up in Civil War very briefly. Was my favorite scene in that whole movie. I didn't really like that movie, but he was my favorite part of it. And I wish that movie had more stuff like that in it, to be honest. And then he shows up in this and just absolutely crushes it. And like, who would have guessed that that guy would go from Breaking Bad to being like one of the best working actors, period? Because sometimes, you know, you hit those TV shows and they're awesome and they're great and they kill it, and then like they show up and stuff later and it just doesn't really connect. But he's got the juice, man. He knows what he's doing. He's locked in every single time. He's always fantastic. I always love seeing him in anything whenever he pops up. One of my favorite performances from him actually is in Game Night, which I think that's a super underrated comedy movie, so you should go check that out. He's hilarious in that movie, by the way. Getting back to the movie, I want to talk about Willem Dafoe for a second in this movie, who's fantastic again, but he's got some looks in this movie, particularly in the first and the third stories. The third story in particular, he's like just got this wild, crazy look. He plays like this like cult leader or whatever. And he's just got this incredible like look. Like the costume designer had to have fun in this movie, 100%. There's no way that they didn't. And I'm sure Willem Dafoe had a fun time. Speaking of which, this movie is really, really stilted. It's really like, it doesn't, like, people don't speak to each other in a natural way. It's very much like stiff, you know? It's like The Lobster. You know, if you've seen The Lobster, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's like a little weird, it's a little off-putting. You're like, why are people talking to each other like that? That's weird. That's the point, though. And it's fun. Let me see. I will say this, though. The movie is like a little bit too long. My attention did start to wane, and especially in that third one. And I think the reason why that happened in the third story in particular is because it's a little bit more like plot heavy than the other two. The other two are very much like kind of like, you can kind of like vibe with them a little bit. But the third one has like a lot of like plot details and stuff, and a lot of stuff going on with Emma Stone's character. But I gotta say that right when my attention started to wane, the end punchline for that storyline was so hilarious that I was like, okay, never mind. You won me back, okay? Like, I don't care. And I think that also is like the longest segment of the movie as well. So I don't know if like maybe mixing the order around would have helped it or what. I will say this. I think this is a little bit more digestible than the original pitch for this movie, which was basically all 3 of these stories are like kind of like Horizon, an American Saga, actually, where it just cuts from one to the next, like back and forth, right? And you can't like, you know, you don't really, it didn't have like a clear cut like anthology setup originally. And to be honest with you, whenever this comes out on Blu-ray, I kind of hope that they have a cut of the movie that's like that. I would kind of appreciate that, but if it doesn't come with it, then that's fine. If I had to rank the stories each, like with my favorite to like least favorite, which I liked all 3, don't get me wrong, but I think my favorite was probably story number 2, so that's like the middle part of the movie. My second favorite, which is a close runner-up, is story number 1, because there's some pretty hilarious stuff in that too. Jesse Plemons has some incredible comedic timing in this movie, just like he's hitting comedic timing in a way that like you just don't expect. It's amazing. And then my least favorite storyline was probably 3, but I still really enjoyed that one too. So like I don't want you guys being like, oh, he didn't like this storyline or whatever. I liked all 3 storylines a lot. It's just like I do have a specific, like I kind of am going back and forth on story 1 and 2, to be honest, but I think 2 really is my favorite. It's the funniest, I feel like, for sure. The film looks fantastic. He has some great digital cinematography in this movie. I believe it's digital. I should have double checked that before I said that out loud. But again, Yorgos Lanthimos movies always look fantastic, and he does do some like cool black and white cinematography in this at times as well. And this movie's like really mean-spirited too. Like, this movie's mean as fuck. So, you know, it's not exactly like a picker-upper. And what's funny about that is this is the same writer, like I said, from The Lobster, but also he did Killing of a Sacred Deer. I didn't like Killing of it. That's like the out of all the Yorgos Lanthimos movies I've seen, which I think the only one of his I haven't seen is Dogtooth. Out of all of them I've seen, I really don't like Killing of a Sacred Deer. I think it's like too like dour. You know what I mean? It wasn't like funny enough for me. Like I don't know. At least for me anyway. I didn't get like the same laughter out of it that The Lobster did. But I've seen a lot of people be like, "Oh yeah, it's so funny," and it is technically a dark comedy. And this is also a dark comedy. Kinds of Kindness is a dark comedy. For some reason, I didn't really vibe with Killing of a Sacred Deer. So when I saw that he was returning as writer, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to feel about this. But I'm happy to report that I really liked this one a lot. Like I said, this movie's, I think, really, really great and definitely worth your time in theaters if you get the chance to see it. I think it has a limited release or whatever. So if there's a theater near you playing it, definitely take the time out of your day to go see it. It is almost 3 hours long, but it was worth it. You know, as opposed to like Horizon, I think this one was definitely worth watching, and it's fun. It's like, if you like dark comedies and stuff like I do, you're going to have a blast watching this. I think there's some hilarious shit in this movie. So I'm going to have to give this one 4 stars out of 5. I really, really liked it. Thought it was cool. Like I said, the last third of this movie, it's a little, my attention did wane a little bit. I think that's the weakest part. Maybe that's because it has the least Jesse Plemons in it, as opposed to the other two. I'm not really sure. This is definitely worth checking out for sure. So anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed that video. Hope you liked the review. If you did, please hit the like button, hit that subscribe button. We're almost at 100 subscribers. That's pretty awesome. And I will be back with more reviews and gameplay videos, whatever ends up being next. So yeah, guys, I think actually my next movie review is going to be for Maxine. I got early access tickets to see that on Wednesday. So that review should be up like Thursday morning probably. So anyway, yeah, I had a good time with Kinds of Kindness. Hope you liked this, and you know, you can always come check out my streams on twitch.tv/thedastardLeebatman. Leave them up unedited. Or you can head on over to my other YouTube channel, Blended Caramel, where I just post whatever I want, but I also do post my VODs from Twitch unedited as well. So anyway, y'all, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video that I do. Peace.